What you're about to hear is one of the best interviews I've ever listened to with President Donald Trump. He went on my local radio station here in California, KFI, which is a Los Angeles-based radio station, on the John Kobylt show, who is a phenomenal host. And he actually called this interview therapy. So buckle up, listen to this. This is phenomenal. Let's get right into it.
President Trump, are you there? Hello.
Hi, John.
Hi, how are you?
How are you, Donald Trump? Nice to be with you.
Nice of you to take some time to come on. We're going to get right to it,
John.
Because I know you're tight on time. Well, first of all,
that's okay. Don't worry about it.
We got the rally at Coachella, and it's going to be Saturday, 5 o'clock. Doors open at 12 at Calhoun Ranch. We have links on our social media so people could get tickets. Let me start off with something that we've been talking about on the show for over 20 years, going back to the George W. Bush days. And it is either the number one or number two issue in all the polling. And that's the border failure. Now, from what I've seen, 2/3 of the country wants tougher border enforcement. More than half, 55%, want mass deportation. I think everybody knows where you stand. But what are you capable of doing as president right away? And how quickly can you do it? What would be the first steps?
We're going to start immediately. The first thing. Second is drill, baby, drill. But the first is close the border. And all you have to do is close the border. And they don't need bills and all the other nonsense they've been talking about. In the meantime, they're flying people in big jet planes, big commercial jet planes. They're flying them in. You say the border's closed. The president says that the border's closed. Now, you have to remember two things. I had the best border in history, in recorded history. It was closed. When I left, I had the best border. All they had to do is keep it going the way it was. We had remain in Mexico. We had all things that nobody said you could get. We had the single best numbers, the best of everything. You know, the famous chart that I looked to the right, and that was the chart. I love that chart.
I love that chart.
The best as I left office. Now, in the meantime, what they've done is unbelievable. They've let people in at numbers that nobody's ever seen. 21 million people, including 13,099 murderers, drug dealers, criminals, gang members coming into our country. Those people will be taken out immediately. It's called deportation. They'll be taken out immediately. It'll be the largest deportation. Nobody wants that, but we have no choice. These are criminals they've let in. They've let in numbers of criminals that nobody's ever seen. And the number of people they've occupied Springfield, Ohio, Aurora. If you look at Aurora in Colorado, what's happened? The Venezuelans have literally taken over buildings in Aurora with weapons that even our military doesn't have.
That gang is supposedly in 100 different cities, that Venezuelan gang.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all over the place. And frankly, cities that haven't been infected, and I use that word very openly, that haven't been infected by this violence yet, they're petrified because it's coming to them also. This is a Venezuelan gang. It's one of the toughest gangs in the world. And it's not as bad as MS-13, which is now coming in. I took them out by the thousands. We have ICE. By the way, she wants to abolish ICE. These are incredible. They happen to be tough, John. I hate to say it because they have to be, but they're incredible patriots. You don't want that job. I don't want it either, but they are tough, strong guys. And they go out and they take criminals, drug lords, murderers. They bring them out or they put them in jail where they have to be. You see what's happening with our crime numbers. They're going through the roof, and other areas that I can see you're into it because I'm into it. Frankly, more than any other thing, I think the border is a bigger issue than inflation. They say inflation is the biggest and the economy. I actually think the border, I think you may agree with me just based on the question. I think the border is a bigger issue than even the inflation, which has been record-setting and horrible.
Because what I notice now, it is a broad swath of people, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent. It's a quality of life issue because they're pouring into the cities. They've been smuggled, like you said, in the middle of the night on planes, dropped in towns like Springfield. And people, the people's neighborhoods and towns have changed overnight, and they don't know what hit them. And so it's not just
Springfield. Hey, John, how about Springfield? It's a community of 50,000 people, and they dropped 32,000 Haitians there. And a lot of these people have very troubled pasts. And frankly, it's a very troubled country. 32,000 in a 50,000, and nobody knows what to do. It's not sustainable. Where do they even think that a thing like this could work? Aurora is bad, but you have many cities that are worse than Aurora. The governor of Colorado, a liberal Democrat, has no idea what to do. He has no idea. And they don't want to speak up because they don't want to speak up about their government, because the government tends to indict people. Take a look at what happened with the mayor of New York. He said, we can't do this. And he ends up getting investigated, and he's got a problem now.
Yeah. But I remember early on when you ran back in 2016, and you said these countries are emptying their prisons. That's exactly what Venezuela did. This gang, Trent de Aragua, I believe is the way you pronounce it. That's the gang that's in 100 cities. They came right out of prison.
And they're vicious, and they're very talented criminals. And, you mentioned 2016. In 2016, I ran on the border. I really did. I ran in the military. We're going to fix it. I did that. I built 571 miles of wall. I did a lot of things, but I really ran probably more on the border than anything else. And I fixed it. It was great. And I handed it over. It was great. We had a great border. The difference is the border we have now, what they've done to this border, they've gotten rid of every one of the things I did. Remain in Mexico. Catch and release in Mexico, not in our country. Catch and release in Mexico. All of the things I did, many things.
So you got. I mean, do you already have like plans, proposals ready to go if you get elected? You start the deportation process. You start sealing off the border and doing executive orders, whatever it takes, whatever's within your power. It's already done, ready to go.
You've seen Tom Homan. He's coming on board.
I love Tom.
The whole group is coming on board. Brandon Judd. These are all guys. We had the border the best. Tell you what, I did the border. I fixed it. Now, I have to tell you, this border is 20 times worse than it was in 2016. That's the one thing. What they've done to our country is incredible, including flying hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants, many of which are criminals, flying them over the border in jet planes, in commercial planes that they rent.
Just for votes.
And they fly them over. It's like a purposeful destruction of our country. Nobody can think it's good, but they try and use them to vote. That's why they're doing it. They want to use these people to vote. They're willing to destroy our country for that. And it's so shameful. It's so terrible.
Moving on to something else. You're familiar with Prop 47 in California?
Yes.
Yeah. 10 years ago it passed, and it practically legalized theft and drug crimes. And that led to an explosion of crime, homelessness, drug addiction, because you could do all the drugs you want. People did it. They had to steal in order to supply their drug habit. They ended up laying out in the street. You know who was the attorney general who wrote the title and summary? It was Kamala Harris. You know what her title? You know what the title and summary was? The Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act.
Isn't it terrible?
I didn't even know that. I just want to pause it for a second. That is insane. I've told you many times on our channel, she destroyed California as district attorney of San Francisco. San Francisco is literally a shadow of itself. Attorney General of California, we've had the largest exodus in the history of our country, the largest illegal migrant crossings in the history of our country, the largest taxes in the history of our country, the largest, unbelievable skyrocketing crimes, smash and grabs, burglaries, robberies, random weird, really unmotivated attacks in the history of our state. So, but this right here is just so unbelievable. That's why Prop 36, if you're in California, is so important to attribute felony charges to all. Doesn't matter how much the money is. But that was such an important point. Again, another blight. Like you needed more against Comrade Kamala.
Isn't it terrible? John, she's so bad. She destroyed your state. And I have property in that state. I hate to talk about it. I have tremendous property there. And I talk about it, but this is much more important to me than the value of my property, to be honest with you. I talk about in such a horrible way about what's happened to California. And I'm actually hurting myself by doing it because of great things there. And it's the potential. You have the weather, you have the water, you have so much. You have a little thing called the ocean. You have the longest shoreline. You have everything there. But Gavin Newsom is horrible, and she is horrible. And I heard that she was the primary cause of really the failure. You had more people moving out than moving in. This the first time that's ever happened. And you don't want that. You live there. You want to be proud of it, but you'll end up going too.
Well, we've been talking
what you're saying now.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for days, but the polls, there's a huge change because a repeal of Prop 47 is winning 3-1 in the polls.
Good
for next month,
Good.
and George Gascon is losing 2-1 as DA here.
He's terrible.
He's horrible.
He's terrible. I mean, this guy, and they have the one thing: $950 and less. You don't get prosecuted, essentially. But they don't prosecute him if they steal much more than that either. So, it's like an artificial. How about where the kids are walking into stores with a calculator so they can calculate how much they're going to steal? This was all done by Kamala. Kamala who's incompetent. Kamala is doing some shows and making speeches that they're finding out she's not a smart person. And we had enough of that for 4 years with Biden. We had enough. We need somebody that's very smart. Thank you very much. But we need people that can do the job.
The people who are going to vote for her, what do you think they see in her candidacy?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm doing very well with the African American vote. You know that. You've seen it. Unbelievably well with the Hispanic vote. I'm doing well with a lot of categories that typically a Republican wouldn't do as well. And, I've always said about California, first of all, they send out I don't know what it is, 38 million ballots. They send them all over the place. Many people get many ballots. You know that. This is no secret. They'll say, oh, that's so terrible to say that. Many people get many ballots. If they had an honest election in California, I think I'd win it in a landslide. I really do. I make speeches in California. I have massive crowds of people that go. I say, how do you lose it? They send them out and they get sent back and nobody knows what the hell's going on. It's just a mess. And you know what? They want a strong border. I don't believe the people in California want sanctuary cities. And you just asked a great question. Who on earth would vote for this person? And she gets on a show and she talks like a child. She doesn't talk like a person running for president. She talks like a child. And I mean, like she just did The View and they asked her a question. What would you do different from Biden? Oh, essentially nothing. Well, what about the 325,000 kids that will probably never be seen again? They're probably dead or they're sex slaves or something. Think of that number. 325,000 people, kids, have been lost coming into our country.
Unreal.
Through the border. And everything else. We were energy independent 4 years ago. We had the best economy we ever had. We had no inflation. I had no inflation. We had the best economy with no inflation.
And the inflation went up 25%. And now what you hear in the media is that, well, it slowed down. Yeah, but that 25% price increase is still there.
You have very little inflation now. Well, the damage has been done. It's not like the damage. You're right. Exactly. The damage has been done. And then she says, oh, I'm doing a really good job in inflation. We have inflation down. But what she doesn't say is why didn't she do it 4 years ago? I always have a question for that. And I said it during the debate, but of course it's all rigged. The whole thing, these anchors and everybody else. It's crazy. You saw the way they attacked J.D. Vance, who did great, by the way.
Yeah.
And attacked me. And we were right in all of this stuff, but they don't attack the other side. It's the craziest thing. But, I have almost a question I could ask and say for every single question. Why didn't you do it 4 years ago?
Right.
Now they're saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They've actually taken a lot of my policy. They started building a wall. Can you believe it? A little tiny wall, but a wall nevertheless. But they actually started building a wall. No, they've taken, I'm going to send them a MAGA cap, I think, But the question is, John, why didn't they do this 4 years ago? We can ask that almost every time. I don't want to be repetitive, so I don't want to ask it. But again and again, you could say, why didn't you do it?
Right.
And she has no answer to it.
I'm being told that you have to go.
Worse than Biden.
I'm being told that you have to go. So
I'm fine. If you want to go a little longer, you can.
All right.
You don't have to go.
Well, you know what I wanted to ask?
You know what this is for me? Therapy.
Okay.
I'm speaking to a smart man. This is like some people go to a psychiatrist. I don't have time. So this is like my therapy.
You can
I think
you can call in once a week if you want, and I don't charge much.
Well, that's okay.
For you,
go ahead.
For you, I'll do it for free. Longer. All right.
Good.
So I was just in Florida. I flew back this morning.
Right.
And I was being chased by the hurricane because I have a place in Sarasota. And
you were being.
Yeah. No, I drove from Sarasota to Miami, flew here, and I'm reading on the plane that FEMA is out of money. Right. After Helene, and now Milton is coming. The flood insurance program is out of money that FEMA runs, and the Small Business Administration disaster programs are out of money. How does this happen? There's trillions and trillions of tax revenue.
Yep.
How come all the disaster funds are broke?
Because they used it for your favorite subject, illegal immigration. They brought in criminals and millions of people. And they took money, and now the people of North Carolina who were really hit hard, and Georgia, and Alabama, and Virginia, and South Carolina, and Florida, those people don't have any money, and it's the worst response to a hurricane, they say, in history. Worse than Katrina, which was pretty bad.
It's treason.
But the worst response to a hurricane in the history of our country. They don't have any money, and you have the same guy the same group of people. Look, Biden is incompetent. I believe she's going to go down as much worse than Biden if she ever got this thing. I think she's more incompetent than Biden. And here's the good news. People are seeing it. Now that she's getting out and about a little bit, they're seeing it. And her poll numbers are going down. And we're leading by getting to be, I don't want to tell people good margins because, they change those margins.
Don't get
complacent. Those margins fast. They're good at one thing. They're good at cheating, and they cheat. And we have to have honest elections, or we have to have borders. But they've taken that money, billions of dollars, and they've used it to allow people to come in, and they're not taking care of the people in North Carolina and Georgia and all these other places. And that's not, I think this one coming in is maybe going to be a bigger one.
Why do you think they do what they do? Why would you open the border and let 8 million people and the prisoners and the gang members? Why would you let crime run amok? By Prop 47, all the drug addiction and homelessness, it's created a lot of suffering that you could see coming immediately. Why would they do this? What is their end game for creating all this chaos?
Votes.
So I used to say they're either stupid or they hate the country. But there's a third reason, which is probably the one. I think they hate the country. They're not stupid because you can't cheat like that and be like a dummy. I think the third reason is they are actually using it to cheat. I think they're putting a lot of people on the voter rolls and trying to get them to vote. People that don't even speak the language, people that don't even know what country they're in, they're putting them in the voter rolls. I think that's what they're doing. And it's a disgrace. And I really believe that's got to be the reason. Because you ask a question that most people don't ever even bring it up. Why? In a business, I always like to find what's the purpose of somebody wanting to buy something from me or whatever. You like to know the other side. I say the same thing. Why do they want to have men and women's sports? It's so crazy, right? Why do they want to have like open borders where millions of people are allowed to come in? Why do they want this? Why do they want to have why do they want to be subservient on energy? We were energy independent. We have energy. We don't need anybody else's oil. We have the best oil. We have the most oil.
We have tons of oil underground here in California that nobody can touch for decades.
It is. California's crazy. You could be so rich. You have such great resources. And if you even think about putting a rig that nobody would even see, they design them. They look like beautiful trees now. If you even think about it, they put you in jail. I mean, it is crazy. And they have no money. You have another thing. You have a lot of water, but basically you're always in a drought. In your richer areas, like Beverly Hills and all, they want to give you a very little amount of water. You buy a house, spend a lot of money, and they say you're allowed to use 29 gallons of water. Do you know that you have water coming in by millions and millions of gallons up from the north? And send the water out into the Pacific Ocean. They don't let it come down.
Yeah, to save a fish that they can't. To save a fish they can't even find anymore.
A fish called the smelt.
Yes, the Delta smelt.
Doesn't do well. The Delta smelt. And to save this little tiny fish that, by the way, is dying for a different reason. It's got no water.
Right.
Before they had water, now it's got no water, so it's dying anyway. But to save the Delta smelt, which is not an important fish.
How do you not?
And by the way, is in other areas.
He's going to save our country.
But for that, millions of gallons of water, millions and millions. I've seen it. It's like a giant faucet. It takes all of that water coming down from way up north, from the snow melts and all. It's pouring down. And that's why you have all those empty fields along the highway where you have the farming area. You have the best land in the country just about, but they took the water away. And what would that do to your forest fires? You could let the water, you have so much water and they let it go out. And I had it all done. It was all done. The hardest part was the federal. It was all done. Gavin Newsom refused to sign it was Department of Commerce that got it done. And he refused to sign. And think of this. You have so much water, and they send it out into the Pacific Ocean, which for the Pacific Ocean is like a drop. You understand that?
Oh, yeah. It's billions of gallons, but it's nothing compared to what's out in the ocean.
One of the things I'm going to do, if this works out, which it should, because we're running against a person that's grossly incompetent, worse than Biden, more incompetent than Biden. And I didn't think I could say that about almost anybody. Would you believe? A major party. But one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to force that issue on water, because the people of Los Angeles don't have water. The farmers don't have water. They send the water out into the Pacific Ocean before it gets to the farmland. Before it gets to Los Angeles, way up north, it gets sent out. And I'm going to say, either do this or we're not going to give you a lot of different things, and they'll do it. I'm going to force that issue because I think it's a disgrace. When I rode up there, I was with some great people, some incredible people, and some congressmen. And I said, why is this land so barren up here? It's interesting. Oh, and it's interesting because they'd have then a little spot, like it'd have a 500-acre piece of land, and about 1 acre or 2 acres was the greenest green I've ever seen. I said, what is that? Well, that's the only land that they're allowed to farm. Why? Because they don't have any water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought, but they don't allow the water to come. They almost talked about it like it was normal. It's gone for for decades, I guess.
Well, a few years ago,
issue has to be forced.
A few years ago with these policies, they claimed we had a drought and we were supposed to have 5-minute showers. They told us to bring a timer into the shower, and they said, or turn on the radio and listen to one song, and at the end of the song, then you end your shower.
Unbelievable.
That was the official government policy.
Yeah, no, you were allowed to have. I think at one point it was 29 gallons. You're allowed. Now it sounds like a lot, 29 gallons, but it's not. It's a very quick shower, actually. So it's crazy. It's crazy. No, I've heard about you for a long time. Now I must say I've enjoyed this call. Now the bad part is why do they do it? You asked the one question. Why would they do that? Well, why wouldn't they let the water come down to Los Angeles? Okay. Why wouldn't they let the farmers have the water? You could even trickle it on to your horrible forest fires all the time. You have more forest fires than any place on earth. And one of the reasons, it's dead bone dry. It's actually artificially dry because you're not allowing water to get there. Water that has gone there for 1 million years, you're not allowed. You actually have, as you have pipes and different, methods of actually getting it. Years ago, they had a very good system, but these radical left lunatics have ended it. So, Kamala's running. She destroyed San Francisco. She helped destroy the state of California, and she wants to destroy America. And I'd love to give, I'm going to the Valley. We're going to have a lot of people, by the way.
Coachella. Why did you pick Coachella? Because, obviously a lot of people in the media think you're nuts. You're way behind in California. Why would you waste any time and money coming to Coachella to campaign?
Because he cares.
Yeah, because we're going to have, I know the state. I also know that this movement, Make America Great Again, it's a pretty nice term, right? MAGA. And what does it mean? When Biden says, we will stop MAGA, I said, does he know what it means? It's called Make America Great Again. Anyway, we have a lot of support in California, and I felt I owed it to him. I have had so many people. Plus, it's a great location. The gentleman that has the land, that owns the land for a long time, he really, it's a great piece of land. It's beautiful, great.
Calhoun Ranch.
And yeah, he really wanted to do it. He's a great gentleman, and he wanted to do it. And we're going to be there. You know, we had 100,000 people the other day in Butler in Pennsylvania.
Woo.
Corey, the great firefighter who lost his life.
Are you nervous at all in these huge crowds, considering what's happened?
Nervous is not a good word, but, you know, I watch out. But, you know, it is what it is. Look, it's a dangerous business. Being president is a dangerous business. You know, a race car driver, 1/10 of 1% don't make it. Bull riders, it's about the same thing, 1/10 of 1%. Presidents, what is it, 5 or 6%? It's a dangerous profession. I never thought about it too much before I did it. But you know what? It's an honor to do it. I wouldn't have changed. I had somebody looking over me because, you know, that was a long shot to have made that. It was a pretty close distance. People said it was like the equivalent of a 1-foot putt if you were a golfer. So I made a turn to the right on an immigration chart. That was the chart. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
it showed the best immigration.
No,
it showed the best immigration numbers in the history, in recorded history. Anyway, we're going to do that, and we're going to do it again, and we'll even have better numbers. And we're going to let people into our country, John, but they're going to come in legally.
Legal.
Yeah, you've always been strong on legal immigration.
Yep.
And that's
I believe, no, we need it. We need people.
That's what every other country in the world does.
Yeah.
All right. So
we don't want murderers, John.
No.
We don't want murderers.
No.
We don't want drug lords. You know, no, it's sort of basic.
No prisoners, no felons.
Yeah, let them have their prisoners, please. And we're going to send them all back. You know, the prison population all over the world is way down. They're all here. They dropped the prison population.
Yeah,
it's not even believable. I think I've ruined your day.
No,
it's not because
No, we talk about this every day.
It's so crazy.
And the terrorists too. The terrorists come in.
So we had 0 terrorists in 2019. I don't even believe that, but these numbers were done by the Border Patrol. 2019, I was very tough on Trump. We had 0. They put down 0. I don't know. I doubt that's correct, but you know, I'll take it. The next year we had 11. Now we have thousands of terrorists coming in from all over the world. It's, you know, the Congo in Africa is now a tremendous supplier of illegal immigrants. They come from the jails of the Congo, and they're in our country. The whole thing is not believable. And you know, I'm telling you, nobody asked the question that you. I asked it to myself, why? Why would they do this?
That's what I want to know. That's what a lot of people want to know. Why would they do this?
Maybe they're just crazy. You know, I used to say, really, they hate our country. Why would they do it? I ask that question all the time. And, you know, our people become immune to it. They became immune to stupidity, actually. But why would they do it? They're destroying our country. And why would they do that? And it's an honor to speak to you, John. And
thank you for coming on.
If you could be there, I'd love to say hello. You know, if you were there. But we're going to have a big deal, and it's going to be wild. And I think it'll be usually a very, very friendly group of great patriots, like we had this the other day in Butler, Pennsylvania.
It's this Saturday, October 12th. It's
Saturday, right.
At 5 o'clock. Doors open at 12. Right. Calhoun Ranch on Calhoun Street in Coachella. And people can go to any of our social media platforms at John Kobylt Radio, and you can get 2 tickets per mobile phone number. First come, first serve.
You'll probably meet a person and get married and happily married for 50 years, right?
Right.
There's a lot of people. We call it a mixer because the people are incredible. And a lot of people meet and they have a good time. But it's very important. I'm doing it for a slightly different reason. I'm doing it to save our country. We have to win this election. November 5th will be the most important day 100%. In the history of our country because our country is going very bad and fast.
All right, Mr. Trump, thank you for coming on with us. And anytime you need some therapy, We'll be here for
you. You gave me some. I love it. No, this is better than anybody I could ever think about. You take care of yourself, John. Great job.
Thank you for coming on. All right. Donald Trump there.
Wow. Was that something or was that something? I truly believe that is one of the best. I mean, I'm not doing a clickbait title here. I think this is one of the best interviews. He was cogent, substantive, relaxed. You heard him say, this is literally therapy. I mean, I've never heard him on any major, even on Fox, even on allied networks or stations or podcasts. I've never heard him say that. And the fact that he went on one of my favorite local radio stations where I live in California. I've been listening to John and Ken forever, and now it's just the John Kobylt show, and he's amazing. It just makes me so proud, and it just shows to me that common sense, real Americans agree on things that actually make sense. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments down below. I really can't wait to read your comments. What did you think of all the interviews? How do you compare that to other ones? What were your thoughts? His candidness, his inviting tone, his warmth, his earnestness, everything. I can't wait to read your comments. Tap that like button because it's free and it helps us get out to more people. We're so close to the election. This is the most consequential day in American history. I love you guys. Check out these videos coming up on the screen right here. Subscribe and follow to my face right there, or just join and subscribe down below. And as always, may God bless you and may God bless America. I'll see you soon.